Ladies and gentlemen, the national anthem of the newly formed Ududuwa Nation.
It's 7:30 in London, 7:30 in Lagos, Nigeria, 2:30 in New York, and 2:30 a.m. in Beijing, China. Live from our studios in London, it's Protest in Nigeria. I'm your host for tonight. My name is Tony Nwisi. I'm broadcasting from our studios in London. We have a great show for you tonight, and I hope you're going to enjoy it. It's fully packed with various stories. But first of all, before we get on to it, I want to let you know you can connect with us on Facebook at Heritage TV. On Facebook, we're on social media. You can connect us on Facebook on Heritage TV, on YouTube on Heritage TV, Heritage Media, and on Instagram also on Heritage TV, Heritage Media. This is your show. We want you to participate. We want you to be involved. So please, whatever you do, log on and follow us on the show tonight. Okay? So bring us your questions, bring us your comments. We're going to be working with you. This is your show. It's not just for us, it's your show. Okay? In the studio with me today is a wonderful guy, Mr. Tunde Alabi, who's going to be my guest for tonight. Mr. Tunde Alabi, he is the coordinator of news at AIT, a journalist by profession. Mr. Alabi, you're welcome to the program tonight.
Thank you very much. To join you on the show.
Fantastic. Well, we have a lot of story to cover tonight. Okay, the top of the list is the curfew in Lagos. Okay, so we'll have the security issues. We also have the latest stuff we just seen come through the news media, a newsreel on a petition to British Parliament for sanctions on Nigeria. A whole lot of stuff to cover tonight. But first of all, we're going to start with the curfew in Lagos. And if the video is ready, they can play the video and then we can see what's going on. As you know, Governor Sanwo-Olu has imposed a curfew. So that's what we're going to start our story with tonight. Back to the studio. I think they're still getting ready. So while they're getting ready, okay, good stuff. Okay, so we have, I wanted the story, it is Twitter post, in which says Sanwo-Olu announces curfew, police and thugs start mobilizing, security cameras, etc. That's not the one I want. I want the one about the governor. But, we'll come back to that. Let's go back to Mr. Alabi. Mr. Alabi, as you've heard of the curfew imposed by the governor. What do you make of this, and what can Nigerians take from this?
Well, as usual, when issues like this happen in Nigeria, government always come up with different strategies to nip such things in the bud, and sometimes when they happen with the ultimate intention to restore law and order. Now, if you've been following the trend of what is happening in Nigeria, the protest against police brutality and impunity in high places and corruption in Nigeria. Now that there have been different strategies to deal with the protests in the last few days. First, the government came up with meet one of the demands of the protesters, that is banning SARS. The protesters said that we're not satisfied with that. We want a total reform. Government went further to set up different panels to meet with the protesters on the way forward. I mean, the Lagos State government set up a panel inaugurated yesterday, and a couple of other states have officially set up a panel to look at the issues and to build confidence in the protesters. But it does appear all these have not actually met up with the expectations of the protesters. And another dimension to the protest was the accusation against or pro-government of sponsoring thug and against the peaceful protesters. If you've been following the trend in Nigeria, you will see protesters have been attacked by thugs in the course of this protest. We have protesters have not been attacked. We will see attacking government institutions like the jailbreak in Benin and police station being set up in Lagos. I heard one happened also in Ibadan lately. And there's some of these issues, strategies being employed by government to do with some of these things. But today, the latest that happened today was the curfew imposed by the government, we started about, this is 7:30, the curfew started about two hours ago. But how effective has this curfew been? We cannot say. You will remember that when we had a jailbreak in Edo State, the government of Edo State also imposed in the state, but that has not been effective in curbing the protest. I mean, in Edo State, where there was curfew, people were seen going about. We had now the governor of Lagos, Sanwo-Olu, also imposed a curfew. How effective has I'm not sure. It's been very effective. Reports coming in indicated that there are protesters at Lekki and in Agege defying the curfew imposed by the government. So these are some of the strategies that has put in place. But have they been able to effectively deal with the protests? I think the answer is no.
It's interesting that you mentioned the curfew in Edo State, and of course the one in Lagos. Governor Sanwo-Olu, as well as the governor of Edo State, have been the first to impose a curfew to try and bring order. So, but the concern I really have is, like you touched on, the issue of effectiveness. But I want to look at Governor Sanwo-Olu and the way he has managed the protest thus far in Lagos State vis-a-vis other states. Thank you very much for showing us the video now with the protests going on. And so I'll let the viewers watch the video. Then we'll continue. Okay, so obviously this is a video of people still protesting, going about peacefully protesting, which has been a landmark of this protest. The peacefulness of the young people, as opposed to what maybe the government expected, that they were violent. Actually, they haven't been violent; they've been very peaceful. So I was asking you about Governor Sanwo-Olu, the way he has handled the protest so far in Lagos. I mean, how would you rate his performance so far? How would you evaluate his performance so far for the benefit of Lagosians, for not Nigerians now, Lagosians?
Right. So we're talking about a movement that has been inspired by the people. a movement that has been inspired by the Nigerian youth. We're talking about a movement that the leadership structure cannot actually be pinned down. And we're talking about a spontaneous movement, spontaneous agitation. We're talking a spontaneous protest that suddenly has spread like a wildfire. And now, let me tell you, politicians have a way of reading the mind of the people. Now, you'll remember in days of this protest, the governor of Rivers State, Wike, gave an instruction. I think about the second or the third, it's about the fourth day of the protest in Rivers State. Governor Wike ordered the protesters to go home and gave a directive be no protest in Rivers State. Now the question is, what happened after that directive as given by Governor Wike? There was a total. The people of Rivers State confronted him. Actually, they took the protest to the government house in Port Harcourt, and the governor could not even come out to address them. So, having seen the trend, it's going to be foolhardy for any governor to try to do anything against this people-inspired movement. It's only going to be reasonable for a good politician to be able to read the lines and associate with this movement, because it doesn't appear that this is a political movement. It does not appear that this is an agitation being inspired by politics. This is an agitation being inspired by social economic problem in the country, and the people that are behind this protest and people that you cannot see. The protest is being coordinated, managed online by the youth themselves. And so it is only wise for Governor Sanwo-Olu to have read between the lines and to have actually associated with the protest and try to dance to the tunes of the protester. It's only normal for a good politician to be able to understand that. We can try not to understand that. They showed them the path he should follow, and so other governors took a cue from that. The governor for your state took a cue from that. They became pro movement. Sanwo-Olu became pro movement, because of course, if you don't, they will shut down. And you can do anything. They will take the movement to your secretariat. They will take the movement to your parks. They will take the protest to your homes, to where you think you've got the power. You cannot kill all of them. Where you shoot at one, and it's a protest that has taken an international dimension. I mean, international media, international institution, international organization is taking an international, a global dimension. So any attempt to apply a forceful means will attract a kind of criticism both nationally and internationally. So it is only wise for Governor Sanwo-Olu to identify with this movement, to identify with this protest, and to come up with strategies that will be able to meet up with the needs of the protester. He's done very well in that area. He's addressed, he identified with the protest himself, came out protesting. The deputy governor spoke in favor of the protest. He had not applied any weight of law against the protesters. He set up what he called, he set up a panel and retribution panel comprising I think 6 member, how many member panel. He set up a panel to look at the injustice that has been done against the Nigerian youth, against the Nigerian people by the police, and is them a 6-month project deal with. And he has also promised about 200 million naira lifeline for those that have been injured as a way of compensation. So it is only wise for Governor Sanwo-Olu to identify protests. It is only wise for Governor Sanwo-Olu to take a cue from what Nigerians, the movement and the protester did to the governor of Rivers State, how they shut him down, how they shut the secretariat down following his direction that protest. So it is only wise. It is wise for any reasonable governor, because this is this is a movement that has been inspired by the people. a movement that has been inspired by people, by a structure that is not physical, and you cannot pull it down. The best you can do is to identify with it, is to play along, and also at the same time, where you need to apply the law, you apply the law. Where you need to apply the color, you apply the color. So far, he has applied the color. Today, it appears the government is coming out with some law. That's why you saw the curfew, and I'm sure in the coming days you will see maybe armed policemen, soldiers of gas. But give it to him. He's been able to read between the lines, and he's on what is right.
I think you're quite right. The commentary so far has been that Governor Sanwo-Olu has, really done a good job so far about it. But the issue of, you talk about, the protesters and the fact that they're not orchestrated and is not planned. How can something like this happen, right through the country? If it's not planned, if it's not orchestrated, we might not know the leaders, we might not see the leaders, but surely in your heart of hearts, don't you think that there are some invisible leaders involved in this protest somehow? I'm not saying the government, but I'm saying that there is a leadership somewhere that has facilitated or orchestrated this or provoked it so that the young people now begin to. How are they getting their funding? What do you say about that?
And if you take a look at the genesis of this protest in Nigeria, this protest actually started in Lagos and gradually came to Abuja. It's about the same time both in Lagos and Abuja. The crowd at the start of this protest, not very much, but gradually the crowd grew. Yeah,
it was initially on Lekki, right? It was initially on Lekki.
Yes, and then the crowd grew, and then it began to spread across the French state. I'm sure you must have heard about the bandwagon syndrome. What we saw in this protest is a civic movement orchestrated by bandwagon syndrome. Now, everybody has seen across the French state that this movement, this protest has actually become popular, and that it appears government is responding. And so simultaneously, people are joining the bandwagon. So it began to spread. With anybody picking on any leadership structure, people jumped on the bandwagon syndrome and it began to spread. And so once it moved from Abuja and Lagos, went to Edo State, went to Oyo State, went to different parts of the state, it's a bandwagon syndrome. And once the bandwagon syndrome caught fire, the Twitter management caught it, especially when it appeared that the CEO of Twitter gave his backing by creating a platform for funding. And then youth are very active on the social media, especially on the Twitter. Everywhere in Nigeria, you see the youth on Twitter. So once they jumped on the bandwagon syndrome, the Twitter became the management technique where they began to communicate and they began to spread. So initially, it was Lagos and Abuja, not very popular. When they saw the movement, that government seemed to be acceding to some of the requests, when they saw that the movement and the protest began to gain some popularity, then everybody across different parts of the country began to jump into it and became a bandwagon syndrome. Automatically, they began to manage through invisible hand online. And about funding, there have been series of online funding set up by different people without any kind of political association. Now, as we say it, without any kind of political association, some of this funding can come from family and friends abroad. If I have money, I'm currently in London now. If I have a couple of friends who are in Abuja leading some of these protests, they reach out to me. If I send like £100 to them, and because they want to keep the momentum going, they convert the £100 to naira, they cook with it. Somebody who has rice will bring the rice, somebody who has water will bring water, somebody who has big, and then it became a kind of a carnival. Why is it a carnival? These are Nigerian youth who are probably graduates, who are probably have no job, who are probably roaming the street, who have nothing to do. And those who are not graduate, who are still student, HASU is on strike. They are at home, they are not in school. And so the environment became very fertile. So graduates who have no job have a place to go. Students who are not in school, they have a place to go. So the environment actually became very fertile for this protest. Now, I tell you, if ASU were not to be on strike, it kind of a little bit difficult. I don't know. ASU were on strike. Some of these gatherings will not be happening at the home front. They will be happening in their different schools. For instance, Ife students at Ife went out for the private classroom. But now these guys are at home. So when they get that, they can go back to their houses, can refuel. And most of these guys, they probably have a good background, have food at home, have some well-to-do parents, so they can always, and they keep this. So the social economic background in Nigeria gave these protests a kind of a lifeline to continue. Students at home, not in school, rather not having job. So it's a field day, nothing to lose.
Right, and everything to gain. Well, the other thing I thought about is, I heard the president say some years ago that the youth are lazy. And so you now look at this protest and look at the way they've organized this protest and the way and the speed with which they have done it and the way the sophistication. So what does it say to you about Nigerian youth, about the kind of youth we have today in terms of whether or not they are lazy, quote unquote, as it's been said, or they are maybe very dynamic? I mean, what does it say to you?
Actually, when this protest started, in fact, before now, I actually was one of the people that the people of the opinion that Nigerian youth are kind of a lazy youth, because some of the trash that the Nigerian people in top places, of the trash that the Nigerian high places in National Assembly presidency, some of the things they give us. Look, the Arab Spring did not get half of what we get in Nigeria before we had the Arab Spring. And so they give us the government and the leaders, they give us what they like. And then it appears that the youth in Nigeria do not care. They just want to go about their own life. And so I actually believe Nigerian youth initially were kind of very lazy, like a dassical. They don't want to get anything done. They don't want everybody to go and get everything done. Several protests have been called in Nigeria. We have the revolution now about more issues. How many people came out to protest? Few. We had protests by Adeyanju. How many people came out to protest? We had NLC, TUC. How many people came out to protest? So we've had different protests in the last few years without active participation of the Nigerian youth. So one would have actually thought the Nigerian youth is kind of very lazy. They accept hook, line, and sinker, anything that government throws at them. Buhari had the confidence, the President Muhammad Buhari had the confidence to say Nigerian youth are kind of lazy because we act as if we are indeed very lazy until the last 3 weeks. What changed? That's the question. What changed? What changed is what I don't know. How do they have those kind of things? How come this spontaneous reaction from the Nigerian youth? How come this protest, this coordination? How did it happen? What changed is what I do not know. But something I do know is something has changed, and Nigeria remained the same again after this protest.
So clearly something happened here. Something happened because this is, I like you rightly confessed that, you're one of those that were kind of laid back. Maybe they've been laid back because of the kind of society you come from, where you're taught to respect your elders, you're taught to defer to your pastors or defer to your parents and so on and so forth. Maybe our culture and our history, in Yoruba culture, for instance, you're supposed to prostrate to your elders and so on and so forth. So our culture maybe has been part of it. Maybe our parents also, the generation of the 70s and 80s, maybe they're part of it because, they passed the torch down to those of us in our 40s and our 50s, but they did not really do much to begin to change the root and branch and stem of the country. So maybe that's part of it. But something absolutely changed this time around.
Yeah.
Something caused these young men and women, which we celebrate. We don't knock it by any chance, which we celebrate. So something caused them to rise up and wake up. I mean, are you able to put your finger on any one thing at all, or maybe a series of things? I know you talked about universities being closed. I know you talked about ASU being on strike and people being out of work, being at home. But we've had that before, and we've had that before, and not this hasn't happened. So, is there a contribution from young Nigerians in America, in New York, in London, in Beijing, for instance, or in Toronto? Because we've seen these protests all over in Washington, in London, and New York, and Toronto, and all of that. So, what do you think changed?
I think one of the things that has changed in this protest is the frustration, the frustration of the Nigerian youth, the anger of the Nigerian youth, the 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 fear of our future is being marginalized by the people who have entrusted the leadership of the country into their hands. I think this is what changed. So long the Nigerian youths have been bottling this anger and frustration in themselves. And let me tell you, the organizers of this protest, Hash and SAS, they did not probably envisage that this protest would go this far. As I said earlier on, we had a bandwagon syndrome. When people saw that the protest became popular, government acceding to some of the requests, people are giving, and this protest got international, national, international support, media coverage. We had a bandwagon syndrome. And then the protest got out of the hands of the initiators of the protest. I can tell you, people who started this protest did not mean that this protest would go this far. It went out of their hand. But what led to, what happened that we're able to come this far? Bottled up frustration. Frustration. We Nigerians are frustrated, Nigerians are angry, Nigerians are not, and the future appears very bleak. This is what has changed. And people are saying, we will take the future, we want our own destiny in our hands now. We want to change. That's probably what changed. That frustration, that anger, that bottled up anger, that's probably changed. Nigeria may not remain the same after this moment.
Nigeria may not remain the same. In fact, I've heard many people say that Nigeria has changed for good. I followed the Arab Spring protest. I also followed the protests in the U.S. During Floyd George killing, and some of the other issues that happen around the world. And one of the things that people keep talking about is that Nigerians have lost their fear. They have lost their fear. And because they have lost their fear, Nigeria has changed forever. I mean, do you share the same sentiment that Nigeria has changed forever?
I think Nigeria has changed forever. I think Nigerian youth, the Nigerian people, they have woken up from slumber. I think something has changed. I think something has changed. I cannot really put my hand on what has changed, but I think something has changed.
Thank you, sir. Now, on the issue of restructuring and the breaking up of the country, I mean, there are two theories clearly. Well, there are three theories. One, a lot of people are going for restructuring as a solution to the problems in Nigeria, and others are saying no, Nigeria is long past it. We can't do this again. You got to break the country up. Um, and I was on a show last night where three of my panel members were totally adamant that Nigeria was dead and buried, and they were going to have a Ududuwa Republic, and they were also pushing for Biafra Republic to come alive, and indeed, if an Arewa also to come alive. But they were not making the case for Arewa; they're making the case for Ududuwa Republic and for Biafra. I have a number of my friends who feel that we're not done yet. That Nigeria has come to a crossroads, and that nations come to crossroads all the time. Like the United States, they came to a crossroads when they had the Civil War, between the United States and the Confederate States, and then they resolved it. Some people say politics is war is politics by other means. So resolve that. Do you think that the Nigerian conundrum can be resolved in such a way that Nigeria remains one nation, i.e., the way it is, or restructured, or Nigeria should be broken up after the model of Czechoslovakia or the model of the Soviet Union? What are your thoughts on this?
Now, one thing we need to understand is after the amalgamation of the country, so we had the Northern Protectorate and the Southern Protectorates coming together, to make up what the country we call Nigeria, 1914, and then we people have said there was this initial agreement that we're going to stay together for the first 100 years up to 2014. We can review our relationship. If we are still compatible, we stay together. If we are no longer compatible, everybody can go. So the time for Nigeria to have broken up, if it actually wanted to break up, will probably officially would have been 2014 after they are following the 100 years of the amalgamation of Nigeria in 1914. But that is on one side. But international law also allows federating units to say, okay, I want to continue to be in this relationship. Yes, international law allows for different units, the federating units or entities in a particular country to say, okay, you know what, I want to go my own, and then a referendum will be conducted. And you look at the former USSR before it was broken down into what we have today: Yugoslavia, Russia. Georgia, we know what the former, former USSR was before. Yeah. They could no longer stay together. They had an agreement. They had referendum, and everybody went his own way. So international law allows for Nigeria to say, we don't want to be together again. We want to go, but it actually needs. It needs to be done legally in a way that is going to be clear and acceptable on the platform of general agreement. Even here in the United Kingdom, we have Scotland saying we don't want to be part of the United Kingdom anymore. We want to go our own way. And then we had a referendum carried out where majorities said, okay, we still want to be part of the United Kingdom, yes or no. We all knew what the result of that United Kingdom referendum was. So is that possible in Nigeria in international law? Yes. It is possible in international law. How would that be possible? The government must be ready to accept the fact that the union should be voluntary. The union should. I'm not saying Nigeria should break, but I'm just looking at the position of law in this matter. If the leadership of Nigeria accept that relationship should be voluntary, I cannot force myself to be in a relationship. Cannot force my wife to be in a relationship with me. If she's no longer satisfied, she can seek a divorce. I can seek divorce. So the same thing applies to any entity, any nation, but it's got to be mutual. It's got to be understanding. But the key thing about Nigeria is Nigeria did not want to go that route. That's very clear. No government wants to take that record that it is under my leadership that Nigeria picks up. Okay, so what is the next rules? Excuse me. What is the next route for Nigeria to take? The next route for Nigeria to take, if nobody wants to take the credit for breaking up the country, then the next route will be to actually what most people have said, let us restructure. Let every region have a say on their people, a say on their resources. Let everybody control what they have. And then the center becomes like a coordinating unit, just as we have it in the United States of America, where the real federal system is practiced. What happens in DC is not the same thing that happens in New York, is not the same thing that happens in Texas, is not the same thing that happens in Georgia. Every state has a kind of its own law. I mean, so what is exclusive is exclusive, what is shared is shared. And so we say, let us restructure Nigeria in such a way that if the North feels like, look, we this is what we want to do. Let them go ahead and get it done. If the South feels like this is what we want to do, let them go ahead and get it done without anybody sitting up there somewhere occupying a kind of a superpower and forcing things, pushing things down the throats of everybody, whether you like it or okay. Just have to toe the line. And that's what people are saying. No, we don't want that. We should be able to take a decision for ourselves. We should be able to say, this is what we want. And then we go for what we want. What I want doesn't have to be what my brother in the North wants. What my brother in the North wants should not be what I want in the South, or in the Southeast, or in the Southwest. I should have a choice to decide where I want to be, what I want to do. Even as people in one country, Nigeria, we can still live together as people, as Nigeria. We can still work together, we can still live together, but then we can have our different strategies to national development. Well, thank God for the Republican constitution that allowed for the regional system of government, where in the Southwest we felt like we want to be educationally advantaged states. We had very well powerful and educational system that brought the Southwest to become one of the most enlightened states region in Nigeria. We had the first TV station. We had so many first, the university system. But the North did not feel in those days that the way these guys in the Southwest are going, we don't want to go that way. They concentrated on agriculture. The North, that we were focusing on education, when we were focusing on social development, when we were focusing on academic empowerment, the North was focusing on agriculture. They were focusing on oligarchy system of government. They were focusing on developing their traditional system of rulership, where one person can have control over 100,000 of people without the people complaining. And they were focusing on agriculture. They were developing their agriculture. The West was developing its social, economic, and academic background. But we were all growing at our different paces. So everybody is moving at his own pace, and that is what happened at the time. And now, but when we had a unitary system of government as imposed on us by the military, as a result of the different coup we had in Nigeria, the military had a unitary command. They imposed the unitary system, the military unitary command on Nigeria. Even the 1999 Constitution is an embodiment of the military style of control. Somebody sitting up there giving command to somebody everywhere, and everybody queuing. That's a military style. So that's the kind of constitution we have. That is not the people's back-oriented constitution. And so the people that have said, okay, all right, if nobody wants to take a responsibility for Nigeria breaking up, but let us restructure. And I actually agree. Let us restructure. Let me develop at my own pace. Let my children do what they want to do. Let the children of my brother, my compatriot in the North, also do what they want to do. They must not be forced on me. Their want, desires, their pace should not be forced on me. They shouldn't. Why? And that is what the structure is all about. So I don't know how possible is it for Nigeria to break up, but I think it's really, really possible for Nigeria to restructure.
So you make a good case for the differences that we have in terms of value systems in the South and the North. And also you now talk about the issue of restructuring. So, well, in the South, for instance, we want restructuring. The North said no restructuring. We're going to stay the way we are. What's the solution? I'm playing devil's advocate here. What's the solution? What do Nigerians do? Which way forward? We are at a crossroads where there isn't a meeting of minds, right? On one side, they say, no, we need to look at this relationship again and say if this marriage is working, like you've eloquently said. And on the other side, they said, no, it's working. I mean, come on. We're enjoying it. Why are you not enjoying it? So where do we go? Do we want a civil war in Nigeria? And if we don't want a civil war, how do we avoid a civil war? And how do we solve this problem?
Who is the greatest beneficiary of the current system we have in Nigeria today? The North. The North is the greatest beneficiary of the system we have in Nigeria today. Are they happy that the system that benefits them should change? Of course not. And so, if the North is saying we don't want any restructure, they are the beneficiary of the current system. So I cannot blame them. The South that is saying we want restructure, they've not got the best out of the country that is called Nigeria, and they want a kind of a change. So that is also clear. So the way forward, in my view, is that everybody should be allowed to develop at its own pace. The North should develop at their own pace. The South should develop at its own pace. So the only way forward for Nigeria is restructuring. Whether we like it or we don't like it, we got to restructure. If we're not allowing restructure, if Nigeria is not going to give room for restructure, then Nigeria may break up, or there may be no peace in the country because everybody is getting to a state where everybody is becoming tired of the situation in the country, and we're saying we want to develop at our own pace. The government cannot pretend to be deaf to the yearnings and aspirations of most Nigerians at this time. If the government says we're not listening, if the government says we're not seeing you, something will happen someday that the government will be forced to listen and to hear what Nigerians are saying.
One of my biggest concerns with this issue of restructuring and breaking up of the country is exactly what you pointed out. If the government develops deaf ears towards the yearnings of the people, and then just like this protest now, something someday something happens, and then the whole place goes up in flames. Is that what we want? Three panel members.
We're not waiting for something like that to happen in the country, but the issue is something must someday that will guarantee future of every Nigerian, the young, the old. The current system is not paying the current system is only paying a few people, a handful of people that have the opportunity of being in powerhouse. Those are the people that are benefiting from the system, and those ones that are benefiting from how much benefit are they also getting? Do not forget, for you to become a successful politician today, somebody must have propped you into that position. And so people who put people into position, people who are in the position, they are also paying back those who prop them into that position. And so the system is broken. The current Nigerian system is broken. This system in Nigeria cannot deliver justice. The current system cannot deliver equity. The current system cannot deliver what Nigerians actually want. I'm here in the United Kingdom, and if I work hard, if I have the opportunities are there for everybody. Even though it has its own glass ceiling, but the system will ensure that you do not go to bed hungry. The system will ensure that you have a roof over your head. The system will ensure that you get some element of justice and equality, though the system also has its own glass ceiling. And so what we're saying about Nigeria is the current system in Nigeria is not working, it cannot work, it has to be broken down. Nigeria has got to change.
Okay, Mr. Alabi, I think perhaps what I'm getting to is during the George Floyd, protest, George Floyd killing, you had the whole world rally around the family, rally around the protesters and all of that. So far, we have seen protests in New York, in London, in Toronto, in all over the world. Over 50 countries, in Paris, they've covered it today, etc., etc. But we have not heard foreign governments so far come out and speak out about this. We have not heard from Boris Johnson. We have not heard from Donald Trump. We have not heard from foreign governments. Is there a role for foreign governments in this drama? And is this the time for them to begin to speak up? Because some people feel like foreign governments are playing the ostrich, okay? Because when they have their own problems, everybody around them, they support them and help them deal with, shed light on it and all of that. But now Africa is going through politics on the streets. Okay, we're going through dialogue on the streets. Which always leads to progress one way or the other. But I haven't seen or heard any comments from Boris Johnson yet, or from Donald Trump, or the leaders for the Western nation, or even the French president. And what do you think about that?
When they had their issues, did they invite you to join them? We voluntarily joined them. Look. I think it's high time Africa came to understand that we are probably inconsequential. Those guys did not consider us as important. The only thing they see important about Africa, is the economic deposits in Africa. The people, we are inconsequential to them. We are unimportant to them. Whether you guys kill yourself, they don't care. Whether you guys, no matter what you guys do to yourself, they don't care. Look at the protest in Nigeria now has gone for how many days now? Running into almost 2 weeks now. Nobody has said anything. How many of the protests has BBC broadcast? How many of the protests has CNN broadcast? How many of those protests? Those that are protesting in America or in New York, these are Nigerians protesting. You're not saying not Nigerians, or maybe few not Nigerians who have a kind of relationship with Nigeria. They are the one joining us to protest. But when we had the flood protest crisis in the world, everybody joined. Who is joining us to protest now? That's to tell you, if you Africans do not fight for yourself, nobody is going to fight for you. If Nigerians do not fight for themselves now, nobody will fight for them. The only way those guys will only come to start speaking for us is when there is serious bloodshed in Nigeria. Are we waiting to have bloodshed in Nigeria? These guys are really hypocritical. They don't care. They don't care about us. They don't care whether we live or we don't live. We are inconsequential. We are unimportant. The only thing they value about us, the only thing these guys value about Africa, about Nigeria, is the economic resources benefit they get from us. The people, they don't care. You may die, you may kill yourself. They don't care. How many of them have really cared about us? Go online, check how many viewership you see as broadcast by BBC on George Floyd. You see millions of viewership. Go online now, check how many viewership you've seen on the BBC broadcast of the protests in Nigeria. You just see a couple of thousands, maybe 1,000, but the George Floyd, you see tens of millions. That's to tell you nobody is watching what is happening. If you guys if we don't do anything about ourselves, nobody's going to get it done for us. Waiting for those guys in Europe, in America to fight our battle for us, it's a lie. They're not going to do it until there's a serious bloodshed. That is when they will now knock on the United Nations and they will start quoting international law, what should be done or what should not be done. If at all these guys intervene in the situation in Nigeria, they have intervened on the basis of their interest. Look at what happened in Libya. Look at what happened in Libya. Look at what is happening in Libya. We have different countries. We've got different countries protecting different interests in Libya. Libya is a failed state. We have Egypt on one hand, we have Europe, we have Egypt and a couple of European states on one hand, we have France and a couple of other states on one hand fighting for the resources of Libya. Who cares? It's just the resources. The Nigerian people Nigeria will be better when Nigerian people take their own destiny in their own hands. That's it. No more, no less.
Well, the video you're watching now is that of is from social media about some security agents seemingly to be colluding with some thugs. This is going around the rounds. We haven't verified this, but the message we're getting that this like security agents seeming to collude with thugs and to cause problems with the protest. Again, we haven't verified this. Heritage TV hasn't verified this. This is just coming from our sources in Nigeria. I mean, I don't know if you saw that video, Mr. Alabi, and and what you make of it. I mean, you would not think that the security, if that video is true, I mean, I don't know, what would you make of that?
And when we started this conversation, I told you strategies about that have been employed by the government, different strategies. I told you first, they started with negotiation. Let's dialogue, let's negotiate. Secondly, they moved to acceding to a couple of the requests. And then from that, they moved to, we see thugs unleashing mayhem on protesters. Then they moved to thugs unleashing protests on government institutions. Can you imagine thugs burning police station? Where are the policemen? Where are they? What happened? What happened to the security apparatus? What happened? What happened? What happened to the security apparatus that are designed to protect Nigerian correctional centers? How will the hoodlums be able to break into the correctional centers without the unseen hands of some principal powers involved? Look, these are some of the strategies that this government that has been employed to subdue this protest in Nigeria, and people have said some of these thugs have been sponsored by government, allegedly sponsored by government. We cannot verify that, but what we see, it does appear that there have been different strategies that have been employed to subdue this protest, and either these thugs were sponsored by government, or if they were not sponsored directly by government, they probably was sponsored by people with vested interest in the current situation. End of story. People with vested interest in the current situation. One boy was caught on the social media. He was paid 500 naira to go and disrupt and attack protesters today. You were paid 500 naira.
Yes.
So people with vested interest, they are either associated with government or not with government, but people with vested interest are responsible for unleashing mayhem on the peaceful protesters through the weapons of thuggery in Nigeria. No more, no less.
Yeah, I mean, it's telling. I mean, when I saw the video also, I thought, how can a handful of people invade a police station which is well equipped, which is well funded, which has personnel? How did that happen? I mean, it just seems to be too good to be true.
That may be possible. We've seen some mushroom police station attack. What are prisons? What happens? What happened? Prisons? What happens to calling for backup? What happened to calling for armed men? What happened to prisons? Come on, man.
Yeah.
Somebody deliberately allowed something to happen just to give a very bad name to this protest. There is a kind of institutional backup somewhere. People with vested interest are involved in the violence in the country. Nothing more, nothing less. It could be government. It could be government. It could be government. I mean, it doesn't have to be government, but certainly the right word for them are people with vested interest in the broken system in Nigeria. The system is broken. There are people that are enjoying the benefit of the brokenness of the system. People with vested interest. Those people are the ones that want the current system to be perpetuated. They want the current system to remain. They want the current system to continue. And those ones that are benefiting from the current system, they have deployed the force of thuggery on those that will want the system to change.
Yeah, there was another video on social media which said supposedly a senator with $2 million that came to share out, for them to go and do damage and all of that, and then the young men and women didn't harm the senator, they didn't damage his car, everything was quite in order, but. It's supposed a senator, of which we didn't see the video, we didn't have the name, but this is again unverified. This is what we're getting from social media, coming forward trying to disrupt it by bribing the boys with $2 million. I mean, what can one make of that? Because $2 million, does it solve the problem that these young men and women are agitating about?
I'm not sure it's $2 million. I think it's just
Yeah.
maybe 2 million naira. I'm not sure it's dollars. Whatever it is, either it's 2 million
Right.
naira or $2 million. It is absolutely insane for anybody at the time people are calling for a change in the corruption in the system. People are calling for an end to the impunity in the system, for anybody to start thinking otherwise. People who think otherwise, people who do otherwise, are the people who benefit from the system. And those people, they are the enemies of the Nigeria that we dream of. And absolutely, I commend the guys. I think this happened in Akure. I commend the guys for actually. If I were them, I'll collect the money. I'll collect the money. It's our money. It's a public money. But of course, I will
Yeah.
not carry out. I will not carry out the directives that have been given to the boss. So I commend those guys.
Yeah.
I don't know if they collected the money, but they actually ensure that vehicle did not move. They did not damage the vehicle. They continue with their peaceful protest. But I don't know whether they collected the money or not. But if I were there, I'll take the money. I'll
Yeah.
pocket the money. It's a public money.
Yeah.
It's my money, which they have illegally
Yeah.
taken from me. And I'll take the money and I'll
Yeah.
still do what I want to do.
Yeah. One thing is clear from these dynamic young men and women. It's apart from the sophistication with which they have handled this whole thing. Um, we'll have another video play here. Who's talking about the army having stained itself with blood. Let's watch the video. I'm not sure the video is probably just a publication. But what I was saying is that one thing is clear is that the way these young men and women have handled themselves, they've handled themselves with discipline, they've handled themselves correctly and properly. They've been seen singing, chanting, praying, the Christian way, praying the Muslim way, cooking together on the roadside, sharing food, sharing drinks, even sharing credit to make phone calls and all that, and then cleaning up. And now it appears that there's been an infiltration by thugs or people who have been sponsored by, like you rightly said, those who they are benefiting from the system, have sponsored some people to come and try and cause confusion, either, with this police bond up and all, and so on and so forth. What would you say to the protesters yourself? So you're talking to the protesters now. How would you encourage them to continue to do their work, to do what they're doing, and maintain peace and order? What would you say to them?
Well, let's first and foremost, let's give it to these guys for
Yeah.
they've been able to push the government. Let's give it to them.
Yeah.
It said that there's no kind of a leadership structure very well coordinated. They're very well coordinated.
Yeah.
Their coordination is online based, and it's been difficult to shut them down. First, that they've taken this protest this far, then they've really done very well. The infiltration of the protest thugs, but it's everywhere. Even in the US, when they had a just
Let me stop you, Mr. Lavi. Let me stop you for a moment. The video playing is a bit of an unfortunate video. It appears to be a mob, beating up a man. We don't know who the man is. We don't know if he's a police officer or not a police officer. I mean, the message that came to us that he was a policeman.
I think viewers should just be warned. This is absolutely horrific. I think viewers should be warned about this thing. Everybody loves this kind of thing. It's very horrific.
Yeah. So
viewers' discretion should be put out.
Viewers' discretion on that, absolutely. So, but we don't know if these are actually protesters or a mob, descended on someone, because what we do know from the beginning of this protest is that these protesters have conducted themselves properly. They've been peaceful. They've been well organized. They've been civil. There's no violence from very beginning. The first day, the second day, the third day. I think it's the fourth day that we began to see all this violence play out. So my point is, they have the right to protest. Obviously, that's their civil right. It's a natural human and civil right. But what message would you have for them on how to conduct themselves as this protest continues to build on and build on? Because it seems to be, turning for in a different trajectory now.
I can only say they should just maintain a very peaceful protest. That's it. And then they should ensure that those who want to hijack the protest from them should be kicked out. They should not allow thugs, they should not allow irate mobs to hijack the protest from them. The protest should be peaceful as possible. That's it.
Well said. Well said. Well, we're coming, rapidly to the end of our program. But the last thing I just want to talk about is a petition that's been received, a petition that's floating online to the British government, Parliament, to sanction Nigerian government. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a petition signed by a couple of thousand people, obviously still building up online, stating that the Nigerian government should be sanctioned for, for the violence in Nigeria and for the way they have handled this SARS matter. I mean, I don't know if you've seen that or what you have to say about that.
At the moment, look, has Nigerian government done anything visibly and terribly wrong in the course of this protest? I think if you look at the posture of the government, when this protest started, they called for dialogue. They, out of the 5 points agenda set up by the protester, the government tried to accede to a couple of these points. The government has maintained a kind of long distance posture without too much interference. So far, the Nigerian government, except for the penetration of thugs into the protest, which we cannot really say specifically that these are government-sponsored thugs who have actually infiltrated this protest, because they do not have the insignia of government with them. As I said earlier on, we can only say those who have sponsored these thugs are people with vested interest. That's at the most what we can say. We cannot say their government. So has government not really conducted itself very well? I think the government has fairly conducted itself not too badly since the course of this protest. So far, I don't know what could happen tomorrow. I don't know what could change tomorrow, but so far, I think the government hasn't done too badly. I think the government has not done too badly.
You say the government hasn't done too badly in the way they have handled this matter. I mean, some people, may disagree with you on that.
What I mean, the government hasn't done. If you look at the trajectory of this process, first when the protest first started, they called for dialogue. They met they tried to accede to some of the requests of the protesters, and the government has not really so far sent out armed. Well, a couple of police officers who have actually gone beyond their directives have been recalled. Some have been sanctioned. Although the government has said the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has not addressed Nigeria on some of these issues, but the posture of the government, for me, the government hasn't done too badly. In my view, not everybody will agree with me, because obviously, a situation where we had a protest, government said, let's talk. We are disbanding SARS. We're setting up panel. We are allowing you to talk to us. The government has given you room for dialogue. So far, anything could tomorrow. But so far, in my view, I think the government may not have performed excellently well, but they are also not done badly.
Yeah, some people are saying that where is the president? We have not heard from the president. Apart from when they accepted I think the first 5 points that the protesters came up with the first, I think the first or second day. Beyond that, we have not had an address from President Buhari. So people are saying, where is President Buhari in all of this? Why is he not addressing the nation? Do you feel that there is a place here that the president is missing a trick here, or why do you think he's not addressing the nation? At a difficult time like this?
Well, in a thin line, the president would have addressed the nation by now. But look, this president is not given to addressing Nigerians on so many national issues. It is taking several push. The president is not one that is given to addressing Nigerians at all. So I'm not shocked if the president hasn't come out to address Nigeria. How many times has the president come out to address Nigerians on national issues, apart from when he had his when he had the campaign, apart from the 2019 campaigns? How many times has he come out on any present national issues to address Nigerians? It's not the kind of government president that is given to talking to people. No. So I'm not shocked. I'm not surprised. And I do not expect anything more from him.
He hasn't addressed the nation, but, surely he ought to address the nation. If he's not given to addressing the nation on issues like this, should he not be sending out a spokesperson with his backing to address the nation? Because how do you keep quiet when the house is in flames?
The government has been sending out spokespeople to talk. The Minister of Youth and Sport has been talking about on behalf of the president. Gabasho has been talking on behalf of the president. But what Nigerians are saying is the president himself as a father should come out to address Nigerians on this pressing national issue. That's what people are saying. But it's not how. Yeah. It's not talking. And am I surprised? No. Do I expect more? No. No.
Okay. You're not surprised at all. But you would have expected that. You would have expected that he would do that. You would think that would be the right thing to do. Is that correct?
For a president, that would have been the right thing to do. For a president that cares about his people, for a president who is concerned about the well-being of his people, of his citizens, the president should have had a national broadcast long before now.
Long before now. Well, it's been a real pleasure talking to you, Ms. Alabi. We have covered quite a lot of ground here. The last thing I'll say to you before we go is, in the light of everything that Nigeria is going through now, the protests that we have going on now, the history that we have, some people are saying there's a new dawn coming for Nigeria. Are you one of those people that say there's a new dawn? And if that is the case, give me a picture of the new Nigeria that you see.
Well, I believe something is going to come out of this protest. If the momentum is sustained, I believe something is going to happen. I believe the year 2020 is a year of difference. In this year 2020, we had COVID-19. We finished with COVID-19. We are having SARS protests. So the year 2020 had a very significant impact in our lives. So I believe this protest is certainly going to bring a change to the system. It's sending a kind of a signal to the people in power that they can no longer take the Nigerian people for granted again. They can no longer take the Nigerian youth for granted again. Something is changing. Something will definitely change after this protest.
Well, on that note, we're going to end the program. Well, it's a real pleasure having you on the show, Mr. Tunde Alabi. I hope you will come back to be with us again on another occasion. And to our guests, to our viewers around the world, I'm sorry that social media connections hasn't worked out, because I tried to connect to hear from from the public to see and pick up your comments, but somehow the connection just wasn't working out. But do not despair. We're back here tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock. We'll try and get the technology working. We value your comments, we value your input, so please go to our page. On YouTube is Heritage TV. On Facebook and Instagram is also Heritage TV. Please go there, leave your comments, leave your questions, etc. We're going to try and pick them up tomorrow when we reconvene tomorrow. But from the studios in London, my name is Tony Nwisi. It's a pleasure being with you, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow at the same time, 7 o'clock, right here in London. Thank you very much, and good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, the national anthem of the newly formed Ududuwa Nation.